Hey yo, what's up everybody? It's Dan Tom here with the Protect Your Neck podcast. Of course, you can find my work at MMA Junkie as well as Action Network. But on this year program, we break down high-level MMA in a slightly different way. This is a recap Afterparty show. I don't know how much of a party. We'll get to that as far as results go. Also, it is a daytime show here, which I'm not complaining. So don't report me to Sean Sheehan. I'm already American, which means I have 17 strikes against me. But no, it was a daytime show here. So I mean, I not that it's not okay for you to drink or have a good time, folks. But between early in the daytime, West Coast, and me, I guess being in camp and stuff and all that fun stuff, yeah, I'm not partaking. But it still is an after party edition because you guys are joining the party. Hopefully below, liking and subscribing to the video. I'm going to share this out as I do and do the whole producer thing as I try to talk to myself. What's up, James Kendrick, and the rest of you piling into the chat again. Like, subscribe, yeah, that's how you can join the party here, and I don't pollute your feed. I don't do enough of these shows to do it. I'm usually just getting pulled in so many other directions, work-wise, otherwise, and whatnot. So I'm going to share this out. If you guys want to fill questions, and these are good shows for the questions, when I got to guest and all, it's a crazy week, and I got to get to the breakdowns. A little harder to address questions, much less more off-topic ones. Obviously, don't want off-topic ones. Would rather have on-topic ones. This is UFC 280, Oliveira Makhachev results. We are recapping. So if you don't want spoilers, you can hit pause, or I don't know what you're doing. Go watch the fights somehow. I know it's hard to do it the legal way, but we try, as we may be. I don't know about you guys. I mean, I'm not the only one, but I always get that endless clicks, like waiting for it to buy. Like, I did buy it, and it's like, would you like to purchase again? Like, no, I would not. Like, would you like to upgrade your plan? Like, no, I would like to watch the event. And you have to kind of go through those negotiations, which are always fun. But I feel like that is the evolution of things. When they upgrade things, that's always upgrades, air quotes, but which means more clicks and more of a pain in the ass, more menus. I wonder if that translates to more engagement on the site. I wonder if it's on purpose. It's not just like us complaining, like, how do they not see this? Like, remember back in the day when UFC.com, you could just go to UFC.com and the whole card would be there, and it was a graphic that would tell you the order. It would have their faces. It would tell you the times, the broadcast. It would have all the relevant information. And then you could just click on them and it would go to stats. And remember when they changed that? And then to where it was I counted, it was literally 4 to 7 clicks. Instead of no clicks, they literally went to 4 to 7 clicks in their Flash website, where it feels like it's 2000, 2001. Like, we all just discovered HTML Flash and we're going ham and crap. That really shit site. That, by the way, those fighter bios, they didn't have that for a year, at least a year. Anyways, ridiculous. Old man on a cloud. Don't worry. This isn't the whole show, although I can be a bit of the Asian Bill Burr of the MMA scene, or whatever you want to call it. But no, we are going to recap results from top to bottom, just getting everybody to pile in. Hey, a little positivity in the house. Alvin Yakitori. See? What a fantastic event. So many fighters that showed heart and determination, wishing all the fighters good health. Definitely we're going to talk about the good health thing. Maybe polite pushback on the fantastic event. I think even well, it depends. If you had a really good night, then shouts to my guy Ian Parker. I think I saw him go 5-0, had a clean sweep. So I want to shout the people doing well. Glad to see friends of the space doing well. Not a hater here. Always happy for the homies doing well. So we're gonna try to keep it as positive as possible. But it was quite a card, right? There definitely are things to talk about. So we'll get to it. Me, I always try to be as level-headed as possible, but also not to the fake, I'm on the fence, I'm worried about my future employment, though I probably should be, more than I am. So in other words, level-headed, but honest and genuine. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with me or not, never ask you to like me, never ask you to agree with me. That's for dang sure. But at least you're going to get, my honest and genuine takes for what that's worth. Hi, Dan. Hi, Ghost Phantom. What's up, Ghost Phantom? Curious to hear some of your thoughts as well, and yeah, I will get back to you on the Men on Fioro without trying not to sound like a hater, because I still remember the things you were saying last time in the chat and some others as well. So we'll definitely get to that. Again, Daniel Tom MMA if you want to check this out. Catch future shows if you're listening on audio in the future on Apple Podcasts, where you can also leave me a 5-star rating and review. I know I went 0 for 5 so on the main event, even though I went perfect on the prelims again, but of course most of my plays were on the main card, and that's where most of my studying is, where self-admittedly it is. So no hiding from that and how bad that makes me look, folks. So we're gonna own it up to it, because again, you know me, good or bad, I always come clean. I think it was my guy. Shouts to Eric Betts Fights, who sometimes pops on this channel. I've been on his channel before. He was saying something. He tweeted out something the other day. It was like, be wary of people who like speak in absolutes and this and that. And, we'll get to it. Even as excited and as big as I was on Dude Bronx, there were some things I did say about Makhachev that even I didn't hear supporters even saying too much that did prove true, as far as don't overlook him on the striking here, folks. Just because I'm doing Dude Bronx, that doesn't mean I'm completely overlooking on the striking. Where even supporters were kind of dismissive of him there. We're just like, oh, no, he's got to wrestle. Yeah, if he has to strike Dude Bronx, he's in trouble. But he's not. He's going to wrestle because smash. And whatnot. So we'll definitely get to that. We got to give him credit where credit's due on his striking, and I definitely have some thoughts on that and how that may have influenced how Dude Bronx fought. For anybody, like myself, scratching my head at certain points. Not that I know, not that we know, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk about and try to sort things out. But my guy Eric Betts Fights, I was saying, he's like, be careful of people speaking absolutes, and I will say that. Be careful of people who don't own up to the defeats or this or that. You always see these. I don't pay attention to the gambling scene much, but these fly-by-night joints, right? These people, they grift people out of their money or their support and followings, and it's sketchy, folks. You'd be surprised how many people from the gambling space to the media space now, because the media space now kind of works in the gambling space, right? I mean, you got people like me who've always been around in one way or another, and OG's far beyond me. So I'm not trying to bump my chest out here or anything, but I'm just saying be very careful. There's a surprising amount of people who do it for pub and a paycheck, the publicity, the push, and a paycheck. They don't actually bet their things that they play. They don't post their losses, and they just kind of get out there and be annoying with my wins. That's why even though you guys are right, I should not be so hard on myself a lot of the times. That's another reason why I try to go opposite. I try not to victory lap too far when I win, if you noticed. And when I lose, I got to keep that same energy. I got to come clean, got to come correct. And as somebody who loses, is used to losing, you get, I'm used to this process, man, because you got to be. Whether it's on the mats, certain aspects of life, or we'll talk about it. The challenge is still open, folks. The challenge is still open. Controversial calls or decision, throw them in there. I'll tell you which side I picked and which side I bet, and more often than not, so far undefeated, I guess, in that streak. Your boy here has been on the wrong side, so we'll get to those. We'll talk about how egregious they are. Are they egregious? How egregious? We'll talk about it. I want to hear your guys' opinions down below. Okay, I got that tweeted out. So as we here we go. Oh, I don't have it tweeted out. There we go. Tweeting it out now, and then we'll get going. How about that? All right. Thank you all for joining me, though. All right. Let's see here. James Kendrick. Hey, Dan, thanks for asking my question in the comments. No worries. Yeah, I try to get to them in the comments as well, so even after the fact you guys missed the live chat, you can still ask it in the comments, and I'm sure algorithms and all the stuff that I should be much more savvy on, it'll pick up on that, and the interaction is actually good. I'm going to check to see if you guys are complaining about my audio. Not that you guys complaining bothers me. It's legit because I've been having audio. There's been audio issues on some shows that I'm doing, and I'm trying to narrow it down if it's me. And if it's me, is it me on every show? Is it me on certain shows? For example, that weird staticky stuff from that transferring, which I apologize for last show. Again, I was rushing folks. And I came right from another show, and like my camera, I guess, was out of focus. And I look good, I was in really good shape, and I still am. I just feel like, Charlie Sheen from Apocalypse Now. Every day I'm out of the gym, Charlie gets stronger and I get weaker. That's kind of the mode I'm in. I'm in that kind of neurotic mode. More on that later, but me is not important. We're here to talk about UFC 280. Just apologizing for performances, and if you're not impressed. Yeah, but I definitely want the audio to be okay for you guys. I'm not hitting. Da 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 da. Hey, Jimmy Kudo. Are you mad at the lack of promotion for UFC 281, mainly for Magnum Whaley? You know what? I'll reserve my criticism on that for now because I have tunnel vision. So how am I going to throw stones? And the way UFC is, it makes it hard for us, even their own selves. Say what you will about the UFC, but there's really good, fine people who bust and break their backs for that company and don't get enough credit. So let's be careful throwing all-encompassing stones there. And it's so hard for them to keep up. You get all these last changes, and they're changing the event sometimes, like all the way right up until. So I'm not going to blame them too much in this day and age. But we'll see. We'll see how the promotion goes. You guys know I've had thoughts on just Zhang Weili before as far as that stuff goes. Kambopoulos Rosen, we talk about habits a lot. Are there any fighters in the world who can change habits and apply game plans based on opponent? Sorry, I got UFC 280 on my mind. I don't know if I'll be able to give you the best answer on that one right now, but which I'll come back to this if I think of something better. Any fighters in the world who can change their habits and game plans best on opponent? Actually, we'll be talking about one of those fighters who's the best at it coming up shortly, which is Bilal Muhammad. So, perfect page note, actually. Great question there. Kambopoulos Rosen. So, I'm just going to scroll down real quick and see if there's any noise things. No, I don't see any complaints, so that's good. All right, folks, we're going to get this party started. Feel free to keep adding to it, and we'll get going. Picks. I guess picks should be fairly easy to calculate. We went, 7-0? In the prelims, 5-0, so we went 7-5 overall. 1-4 straight plays. We went 0 for 0 in that round robin, which is crap because the good thing about this round robin setup that I had, which we'll get to, it wasn't what I liked. Not that it mattered going for Oliveira by sub or Moneyline instead of sub. It didn't happen. Had Chukagian, Jan by KO, and TJ. And the crappy part was this was one where sometimes I do these 6 two-teamers. For 0.17 U's, how I did my round robin, and that's a total of 1.02 units exposure. So you got to make that 1.02 back at least, right? Is how I look at the round robin to make it worthwhile. Wow, cool whip. And so I'll take the lowest, and again, just try to be realistic. Instead of going, how much can I make? I go, what's the lowest I can make, and will I still be okay? So I'll go from the lowest paying out combination. And a lot of times that won't pay it off, which sucks. So you're just okay, hopefully if only 2 hit, it's the highest paying, okay? And we go that way. This one, it didn't matter. The lowest 2 would have paid this bad boy off, and I still would have profited on it. And I was like, oh, how could I lose? This is how I could lose, which we're going to be going over now, folks. And props, I went 0 for 4. 0 for 5 if you consider, because I technically had, 2 round flyers for TJ there, rounds 4 and 5. So we'll get to that one. Shortly. Thanks for the love on the prelims. Congratulations, Dan 7-0 on the prelims. Is a great way to start. It was. Too bad I didn't have any more plays than one, and too bad I wasn't parlaying my prelim picks. Although, parlaying was dangerous. We had some major parlay pieces that kind of fell out, right? Hard to be hindsight there. But yes, Islam Makhachev defeated Charles Oliveira via submission round 2. Shouts to my guy Aaron Brownstetter. That obviously. Makhachev by submission round 2 is the highest paying bang for your buck. But as far as value, realistic, kicking for coverage, smart play before, and obviously really smart play after because it hit. Shouts to my guy Aaron. I think it was around the -130 range. Very playable chalk, near even money. You could have got that too as far as fight ends in submission. So you would have been covered if I was right, which I was not, and you would have been covered in the actual scenario that happened, which was Makhachev submission. But yeah, it was really crappy because not just the losing streak 0-4 bad night. Charles Oliveira could have saved it, and I'm personally deflated right now with we'll talk about it because a lot of the injuries, and I don't know, so maybe just divulging shit on this show because some of the people I was gonna fight and potentially would fight potentially listen. But I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to compete. And this seeing what we saw tonight makes me kind of realize that a bit right now, because I'm dealing with variations of what we saw, and I'm not these guys, and we saw it happen. We'll get to those fights. This was not one of those. Charles Oliveira, from the little brief little things I caught on media timelines, seems to be just not making any excuses about it, taking the loss, showing it to the presser, la Haman. He did look off. He made some questionable decisions as far as pulling guard. He didn't go any, which is really annoying because none of those were like pulling guard when he had the front chokes, which I was looking for. My analysis, which was there, you still saw Islam doing it in this fight. He kept sagging off, going. He always goes left side underhook, left side reap, and when he shoots, his head's on the right side. All of Charles Oliveira's feeds and front choke finishes and everything in between, literally every time, go to his left side. He didn't try it once, so I don't know. It did look like he was comfortable on the ground, almost inviting it at times. So, it's hard to say, well, maybe he didn't want to give up position and go to his back, which I get, but he was going to his back still. He looked comfortable on his back, and in other senses, you could see, looked like he planned there to be there to certain extents, which is not the best, obviously. That's your plan A, but who's saying it is? Well, let's not put words in his mouth. Guys like Islam and Khabib can force you there, and again, to Islam's credit, back to that striking note, and God forbid I give myself a little bit of credit for the credit that I did give Islam, because I was, I was even at, people who were like ardent DuBronx supporters going, saying I was more than fair and balanced toward Makhachev, which is where I said, don't discount his striking, folks. And it's funny just how so many old notes came back to haunt me. Like, we didn't see so much the body kick that I was talking about, but southpaws have always been something that I was suspicious of. If you actually go back to read my breakdown where he fought Anthony Pettis, or even back to Miles Jury, like I'll mention, like these guys switch stance and will kick from southpaw, and I think that will be just striking from southpaw, switching there, kicking there. All those things are going to be really good against Oliveira. And it was the counter cross, which again, was going to be a shot there too. So I think someone asked me about like Oliveira and Conor back in the day, and one of the things I said and always thought about that matchup was that you could kind of coax Conor into it, because hopefully he sees that his counter left hand will be there in his defense. Not saying he'll win, not saying I would pick him, but that was enough of a tangible area for it to be there. And man, Makhachev hit that and was able to follow him to the ground, which didn't surprise me, but I called it on this podcast, which was annoying about the even bets aside, bets aside, obviously, for DuBronx, because he deserves it, and he's a good person, and he actually uses his success to go and help people in the favelas as opposed to make fun of homeless people and hang out with dictators. Just saying some facts. But no, and even aside from that, let's put that aside, right? Let's put my stupid bets aside. Just for the analysis, was not often you get that, and it would have been nice, especially on a deflating week with the fights and stuff, like I was talking about and hinting about my own deflating news as far as that goes. And then also just then some work news and stuff, just as far as I can't say and won't say, I don't divulge that stuff, but just I'm still employed, nothing crazy, don't worry folks, I'm fine. But like, just as far as ceilings go and the way of the world, it's nothing that you guys don't deal with. I'm almost certain in your own ways. So I'm not playing a violin or asking for sympathy here. We all go through this. But yeah, man, I was just but what I will say, and again, anybody who reads between the lines, I'm sure it's not hard to figure out. But yeah, man, just sometimes like especially when I don't have something to focus on, like the gym and right now and training. Back to focusing on career, other things that like I shouldn't be basing my worth on and value on, and a lot of times on these big weeks it could be easy for certain things to fall for the cracks, but yeah, there was just a lot of disappointing reminders, stuff that I should be used to by now after about half a decade over of kind of the same treatment. But your boy is basically just trying to work to try to put himself in more healthier circles and a more healthier position, not just for my own personal health and happiness, just realizing how much that messes with my psyche. And you're like, why is this guy like, not that bad. Why is he beating himself up all the time? It really just messes with your value when like you're, let's just say like your inner circle or one of your many inner circles. There's a lot of definitions of that: friends, family, work, all these different things. When that's not, let's just say, normal, it doesn't make it can, if you're not careful, and this is my responsibility to stay on this, it can make your viewpoints, your perspective maybe not normal, right? So that was kind of crappy, and I just, which I never say, and especially it sounds ignorant and stupid, and especially when you're wrong. So especially sounds stupid now, but again, for better or worse, mainly worse, your boy here is honest, and I felt like, and not from you guys, everybody here is great, but I just felt like my stuff wasn't getting a lot of love, which was great because it was wrong. So this is a blessing in hindsight, I guess. But it would have been nice. Like this was one of the few times, again, I'm not a victory lap guys, folks, but I am a human being. And I do have an ego, although I try to call it out and be honest and be healthy with it. You know, we all have one. And it would have been nice to have been right this time. And when I was kind of pre-calling that I would have been wrong on this fight, Oliveira Makhachev, if you refer back to the last episode, I said, what was annoying is I spent these last two fights shouting to my lungs and was just dead right about my Poirier and Gaethje analysis. I mean, you go and look at that. I mean, it was to a T. You know, the directionality and the body work with Poirier. And then following that theme, how the body work and the clinching would still parlay into Gaethje style, how it would make him crouch down, but he would have to go through hell to get there, particularly checking counters. Different style of checking counters or counters that he was checked by tonight. But those two things still held true, and I felt like I spent screaming out my lungs. The point was, in that analysis, especially the Jake Gaethje one, was that people, you know, unlike the Ricardo Lamas or Anthony Pettis, certain people are equipped to follow him to the ground, and certain people are not, and that proved to be. And I'm sure I was probably like more excited and did more of a victory lap than I usually do for those two fights, because I was so excited and did so well and made so much on them was great. So you know, but at the same time, I was like, I don't know if I felt like that those points were heard enough too. And then I'm like, well, maybe they certainly were heard, because everybody took that analysis, it felt like, and was using that. Like, you didn't hear anybody talking about it before. And now all of a sudden, coming into this fight, everybody finally grabbed that analysis talking point that I was screaming for the lungs for the last year on publicly. And that was everybody's reason for picking Makhachev, which they were right. They were right. But it's just kind of ironic, right? And that's classic. For those of you who follow the Protecting Your podcast, very classic Dan Tom. Something that I opine about, and just those poetic fucking twists. Me at the end of it, oh yeah, oh yes, of course. So everybody's going to take that piece of analysis that me and Manny, I'm not the only one, by the way. I'm not trying to pretend, but it just was, I'm talking about just the mainstream narrative talking points. It's just so annoying to see me and Manny be screaming that point for DuBronx, and now people take that analysis and finally acknowledged it, but they only acknowledged it to throw it against him. And there was just so many people, man, people that I respect, by the way, from media colleagues, with bad takes to analysts with bad analysis, or just not giving, you know, DuBronx the credit in the grappling or his game. And it sucks because all that was kind of proven right, because we didn't see the front head look chokes he was talking about. What we did see, what I was talking about, but what we did see was Makhachev on top, Makhachev smash, Makhachev follow to the ground. Like everybody else was talking about. Not the striking, because again, oddly enough, people like me who didn't pick him and are accused of being the haters were actually the ones talking about Makhachev striking, and not to overlook it, oddly enough. But I'm sure that part will be skipped over, just like, you know, people skip over their losses and all these other things conveniently. Not me, for better or worse. Mainly worse, I know, I suck. But hey, fucking here. I account for it. I get in there and I do it. And I'm not just like tweeting cheeky shit, you know, where it's just like, that's the annoying part, because not everybody's annoying. There's really... You know, there's really cool Khabib fans and stuff out there. I like his style of game. I'm finally seeing people like talk about his coaching streak, which unfortunately, that's going to be the only reason why people talk about that he's a good coach. Because again, it's this fascination of numbers. Because, you know, politely, it's easier to grasp than actually getting in there and doing it. Because getting in there and doing it's hard. It's easier to be like smash, wrestling over jiu-jitsu, than actually like going and wrestling or doing jiu-jitsu, or especially wrestling, which is funny because wrestling is the hardest one, and it's the one like most people are touting to shit on jiu-jitsu. I love wrestling too, folks. I'm more of a wrestler than a jiu-jitsu guy, so I'm not biased toward jiu-jitsu or anything like that. Like there's a lot of problems with jiu-jitsu that I could go on about, and we don't need to get into it right now. But so it's not coming from that place. I'm just saying, again, it's like, what does Dan Tom not understand annoying people on the internet and sports and front running fans? Because this is all normal according to that, and I get that. That's just not me. I'm too busy actually doing the sports and dedicating my life and health to it than just to be like a cheeky asshole online. So shouts to Alvin Yakitori because that's why I respect it, like the Alvin Yakatoris of the world saying like to respect these fighters' health and this and that and what they give. So it sucks, man. Sorry, we're gonna move on from this one so I can get off my soapbox. But Makhachev's awesome, man. He's really good. Perhaps so. Again, I can't really say me, even though because I didn't pick him here. But you can rewind the tape, go look at old tweets. Like there wasn't many people outside of me and like the Luke Thomases of the world like praising Makhachev while people were only like just discovering where Khabib's zipper was as they were making themselves comfortable for the long haul. And again, I'm not a Khabib hater. I like the grappling and back to the coaching with the numbers, and that's where I got sidetracked. People grasping numbers and stuff because that's. It's always easier to grasp, but no. And shouts to Bilal Muhammad, which we'll talk about. Like Bilal made it a point and goes like, no, everyone's talking shit like, oh, Khabib's just what's he gonna do? Oh, just because he's Khabib and whatever. Like, no, Bilal's like, no, he's actually a good coach. He knows when to get on you, what to say, technically, what to train in, what to drill. And Bilal was saying these things in the lead up, and now I'm finally people seeing catch up to that narrative. But of course. Again, I'm a hater and I picked DuBronx, so F what I say, but I've been one of the you guys know, you've been here. I've been one of the few saying Khabib's a good coach, and this is something to watch out for. This does not surprise me. And it's not disrespect to say he's going to be a better coach when his career is all said and done. It's just the fact that I measure legacies and what the hell did you actually do. And I don't have to go into that thing again because I really don't want to sound like a Khabib hater. But the truth is, at the end of the day, the guy didn't fight that much, and he clearly doesn't want to fight, even though everybody, all his fans and Dana White want him to. Like, he's happy he's competitive, but he's competitive in a different way. He seems to really like this, and he's taking the helm from Abdul Manap. Like, that seems to be in their blood, and I think he's really going to carry on his father's legacy and make it really proud that way. So, yeah, big hater of me saying that, but that's what I feel. All right, but congrats to anybody that was on Makhachev, because I had friends on Makhachev too, so happy that my friends cashed. But yeah, I'll definitely pour it out with my homies who were riding the DuBronx ship. Rain, sink, or shine. We here. I'm here with you, brothers. I'm here. All right. Jerry Harper. What's up, Jerry Harper? Says, before we push on, he goes, Khabib is turning into an amazing coach, and you're right about that. Hell, I think he made Bilal look even better in a small amount of time. Not just grappling. Look how good he looked against Brady. Yep. And Bilal was rewarded for pushing that pace and got an extra $50,000 for his trouble. I mean, that's I don't know what to tell you guys. That's really good stuff. So let's make sure that's not lost, because he was in the corner of multiple winners tonight, not just Islam. Speaking of winners, Aljamain Sterling defeated TJ Dillashaw. Man, do I look like the biggest asshole again? And that's what I hate about these people's opinions. Who it's like they've only put hot opinions out there. Like, some people only do it to be assholes to get engagement. Some people will only do it if they throw a win, and then they're real quiet when they lose, right? And none of these motherfuckers, whether they do it the right way, the wrong way, or anything in between, whatever you consider the right and wrong way, I'm just, giving you what I think. Yeah, none of them are getting on the mat with them, and if they are, in the same room as a fighter, they're either kissing butt to them because they're media, or they're just fanboys and they're asking for their autographs and pictures, and stuff like that. So yeah, but me, no, I'm in these rooms. I was in the same practice room with Aljo, not some weeks ago before he went back to finish his camp, and maybe it was nothing. Just like maybe it was nothing that Justin Gaethje you give me the death stare after I picked against him one time in studio. But I felt a little bit of a stare, like he knew who I was. And shouts to my guy Gabe Killian, who says I always pick against him. Obviously, Gabe was tongue in cheek and joking because I don't always pick against him. I think I picked a majority, not just recently, just overall. I think you can just 7 out of his last 8, Joe, or whatever they arbitrarily decide to cherry pick. I think you could cherry pick from any point of his career, unless you do his last 4, then I'm 2 for 2. But otherwise, yeah, I'm pretty sure you could audit me on my picks on Aljo, and I've picked him more than I haven't. It's nothing against him, man. He seems like I know he says some stuff that I definitely won't defend, and I definitely don't agree with, by the way. I know I try to talk about like the action and stuff, how it plays out. That's kind of the purpose of this podcast and whatnot. But for what that's worth, I definitely don't agree. And you don't have to. You can like a fighter, and you don't have to agree with everything they say. And that's fine. It's fine to call people out on these things, folks. It's fine. But I'm just trying to say that I'm not a hater of Aljo just because I don't pick him or don't agree with this or that. Like, man, there's plenty to like, about his game that I really like. He still is one of my favorite submissions over one of my favorite guys too, Takeya Mitsugaki. Like, I don't know, Aljo's caught my eye and his style has spoken to me for a while. And that's what I hate about being called haters. It's like the guys that I'm called haters about, I really like their styles. Like Aljamain Sterling and Khabib, which is crazy. So that is kind of the ironic thing that I think about now. Everybody who like accuses me of being a hater of somebody, like the ironic part is like I actually have like an insanely deep appreciation for their style, more so even than other fighters whom are already good and I appreciate. So for what that's worth. And then obviously like, my guy Nick Sick and stuff, like, dude, I'm so happy for him and his part of that team, obviously. So he's a Serra Longo fighter, Aljo is, and whatnot. And I know those guys get territorial and no one's arguing with him. None of us Vegas guys are arguing, but, and I'm not going to do the cheeky thing and, lay claim and I don't do that bullshit, and neither does Eric Nixick. Eric Nixick more than respectful, and always tips the hat to Matt Serra and Ray Longo first. So, yeah, man, all props to them, all them dudes, man. So, yeah, but it sucks for me, egg on my face, right? Because it's already bad enough that you're picking against the guy who's a bunch of people in the gym, either is in the gym and or has a bunch of friends who train in the gym. You know what I'm saying? And you work with all these people and have relationships with mutual stomping grounds, coaches, etc. Like, and unlike the Sun Sao Henry fight, it was like I was picking not just against a dude who a lot of people like or my friends like, or all these intricate relationships like I was talking about, but I'm picking like a controversial dude, and now I'm betting it too. I didn't care about results on that one, on Henry or Sun Sao. I mean, I was happy for Sun Sao. I cared that way, but I didn't care about like betting because I didn't bet. This one I did, not a lot, not like Jan, who we'll get to, or Du Bronx, who both of those guys, it was upwards of 3 units apiece, right? Like, ooh. It wasn't that much, but I still, bet just over a unit on Dillashaw, so that was really, it's like, man, you're going to do that. You better at least be right if you're going to be, pick against your friends' boys and, a shared stopping ground mutual and just a great freaking fighter, the champion, right? So regardless of TJ coming in compromised or what the reasoning is, credit to them and poo-poo on me. Shit on me. How about that, so... Again, that's what makes it extra annoying about doing things the right way and trying to, be professional and unbiased and put the work in and go with your work and account for your results and show up on video in front of you guys when I'd rather be eating and doing a bunch of other stuff and spending time with my beautiful girlfriend and going to a show that got canceled. Oh man, today's just not the day, isn't it? Is it? And we'll get to my luck on some of these things, but yeah, and before anybody goes, oh, what about Maximoff and you bet that cash last week where you bet again? Like, okay, Don't make me go into that again. Maximov should have never been there. And I've been proven absolutely right, regardless of the results. Not just 110% right on Maximov. And Maximov was losing before that injury. And that injury wasn't pre-existing like it was here. And that injury happened because of something that the fighter that I bet on did. So don't even start with that. No. The streak continues, unfortunately, folks. I wish I was wrong. I wish you were right. Unfortunately, I am right. I am wrong on my bets, and I am right on my bad luck on certain outcomes. Again, not crying robbery, not crying worlds against me or anything like that. I'm just saying, man, the fact that every time we're reviewing these fights, we talk about these samples like, oh, yeah, that was when this decision happened or when this non-stoppage happened or when we were going to get the call with the Dacus Holland and then Herb Dean said, you know what, wait, interjected from the outside. I can't make this up, folks. I'm just saying, like, the fact that it keeps happening, I gotta at least acknowledge it. Like, I'm not crying. I'm laughing at this point. You know, I'm laughing at this point. But I just want to know, I can keep laughing, okay? Not even just I'm crying on the inside and laughing. No. I'm laughing. So long as I just know I'm not alone here. Like, you guys are seeing this, right? But yeah, Dillashaw came in with the injured shoulder, and that's tough. And I know everybody's talking about their own shoulder. I try not to do that because it can, it's something that it's a mistake I've made a lot, and it's something that I run the risk of a lot. Talking too much about myself. I know. What, Dan? You never talk about yourself. So I'm not going to throw shade or anything when I say this, but for example, like, like I saw a lot of like things on my timeline, like, hey, did you guys know Paul Felder knows Sean Brady and Bilal Muhammad? I don't know if you guys are aware. And I'm not shitting on Paul. I love Paul. But I'm just saying, like, I get Paul, and I get, as I constantly find myself into that. And it's easy to do it. It's easy to talk about ourselves, But yes, one of the many injuries that I'm trying to tough through this camp is a shoulder injury. And it's brutal, man. Like, before almost having my eyeball scratched out and, popping something really badly, last week, I was just, TJ said how emotional the camp was. That was really speaking to me. Because, and I'm not saying you should feel bad for TJ or this is he's done terrible things. He doesn't seem like a great guy, great training partner or anything like that, folks. Believe me, I'm not. Just because I bet the guy doesn't mean like I'm fucking, I'm at the church of TJ, or anything like that. Believe me. But I feel for any human being going through these injuries and adversities because it really humbles you. Even the TJ Dillashaws of the world, right? Like the absolute Chads of the world, right? And my shoulder, I came in to this camp with recovering from a torn labrum on my left side. And my right side, I've been in camp so long now, it feels like since end of May, beginning of June, and been dieting since then, dieting hardcore since early August. So the diet now, basically shit that I don't even like caramel corn, like, sounds great to me. I'm at that point of the diet where everything sounds amazing. And physically, my good side has now become my bad side. Like, I've been training that long and that shit, right? And so now my good shoulder is now my bad shoulder. And it actually gave out because I was going with heavyweight guy that I shouldn't have been. But the program, there's not many people for him to work with. And I'm one of those people in the middle ground and was, anyways, just with the skill, the way it works out, I'm one of the few that can give him some decent rounds, and I'm done doing that. no offense, my man, Big Bo, but yeah, I essentially had a 300+ pound former Division something football player trying to keep me down and literally doing tackles while I'm trying to do underhook get-ups, and that posting arm just gave out, and it hasn't done it since. It's actually starting to feel better, but it was still so bad. It's been so touch and go. And I didn't realize how much I just swim for singles and use underhook get-ups. And if you read my analysis, TJ doesn't always give his back, which is why I picked him, because he will swim for singles and go for underhook get-ups. They're very safe options in MMA, especially if you know what you're doing. And the thing about that is that, wrestlers all have kind of bad shoulders, and I do a lot of wrestling myself. My style is very wrestling heavy because you're swimming for those underhooks. And when you get up for the underhook, it's not even so much the underhook side, it's the posting arm. and you saw that like TJ couldn't post on that one side. That's why, and what you have to do, and that's why I was saying it sucks. And Aljo is the worst type of fighter to do it, not just because it's a UFC fighter on the world stage at the world title level, but because what you have to do then is give your back to get up when your shoulders like that. And Aljo is the last guy you want to give your back against, as we've seen. And I got like, I don't know if you could tell, my eye was like kind of swelled up last week, and dude didn't do it maliciously. He's a really talented dude, really good partner. I've been working with him a lot. But like, one of the rounds especially, I got the piss beat out of me, man. And just been pretty damn emotional. Just like, not emotional in the fight, or like getting angry back at him, but like, just like, and you know, not crying or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with crying, but yeah, it was just, it sucked. You're just like, fuck, man. Like, you feel so fucking helpless, man. And you're like, what am I doing? What can I can't even. I'm not even. You're like, why I need to spar. I only have this much out from a fight. I need that timing, but at the same time, like, I'm not even giving myself a good account for myself. I'm like further hurting myself. I'm physically, and then mentally, I'm lowering the bar too, because I'm taking these beatings, and this is not helping my confidence at all. So yeah, when TJ says a hard time getting through the camp and this and that, I'm not saying to sympathize, because it holds the division up, and that's a whole other part of the conversation, which I am absolutely sympathetic with the rest of the division for, by the way. Just the whole shit show, man. You know, like, someone should have stepped in there and protected him from himself, just like I probably got to do for myself here. Even though I'm not saying no one's not doing it for me, I've actually had a bunch of people telling me to take it easy and stop this or stop that, and they're worried for me. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe more on that later. But it sucks, man. It just sucked. There was no point. You know, there was no point in the fight, and then there's no point from the fight even going like that. But we're all stubborn to our decisions, chasing glory and gambling on ourselves. So I'm not gonna cast stones too hard when I'm not even getting paid. I don't even have promise of a career. I suck, and I'm sitting here trying to push through real similar shit that we saw tonight, and I'm not even at that level, and I'm not even getting paid. So am I gonna really talk shit? You know, so it just sucks, and it was a waste of time. I'll say that. You know, I sentiment with you guys there. All right, Rain Lamina, what's up, dude? Shout out to Dan Tom for putting great MMA analysis every week on like WMMA YouTubers who speak like they think they know everything and attack fighters when they come from. I don't know who that shade's at, my friend, but I guess you could say I was throwing shade. I was only throwing shade at people who threw shade, granted. So it was just, and casting a wide net I was. But that sounds oddly specific, and I'm not catching on that one. But I appreciate you, Rain Lamina. You're always welcome here, my brother, to voice your opinion. Synchro Wing, I sang Sterling's praises after both Jan fights, but him not finishing TJ has made me. He did finish TJ. What? I'm sorry, my reading comprehension is terrible, and I haven't been sleeping well right now. So I'm sorry if that one escaped me. James Kendrick, one of the narratives this week was that Islam's team was saying that no matter what Oliveira was training with won't help. Why do people like to trash fighters' training camps like that? I mean, it was competitive, I guess. I believe Oliveira said that Khabib went to Oliveira and kind of like apologized after, saying, you know, all the trash talk, it was just promotion. It was just fight game, brother. And that he respects Oliveira, which was cool to hear. That he respects him. Sorry. But yeah, yeah, I guess that was that about. But yeah, everybody was trash talking in Oliveira's camp and stuff. And you know what? It's okay if Khabib and Islam wanted, because they're gonna get in there and fight. Those guys are doing the damn thing. You know, it's those of us who sit comfortably from our couch and cast stones, whether, again, we're fans, gamblers, or media. I've seen everybody do this, and it's. So we need the Alvin Yakatoris of the world, folks, reminding us of that positive message. And, you know, we need more people, whether they're higher profile, like the Felders and all those people, the fighters and stuff, to the, you know, I guess the opposite and bottom of that totem pole, which just happy to be a part of it, I guess, if that's not too cocky. People like myself just trying to, you know, help that effort. So yeah. All right, let's get some more questions here. Jerry Harper, Khabib is turning to. Oh, you're right. Yep, that one. Yeah. Synchro Wing. Khabib is a good coach, but Henry Cejudo is about to have his 5th champion by the end of the year. I don't disagree with that, sir. I don't disagree with that. Don't think that's too bold of a prediction, but I agree. My man Martin Peterson. Don't let words by others affect you. I know it shouldn't. You are right, sir. Who's next for Aljo? Also from Martin. Who's next for Aljo, huh? Yeah, that's a good question. I say whoever Aljo wants, man. Give him. He deserves it. We should have had it Aldo though. This is just really crappy. That was another really crappy thing about the matchmaking stuff. It's just like, you could have gave Oliveira his Conor shot. Good for Makhachev. This is definitely best case scenario for him. I'm not gonna argue anything for him, but hey, look, he passed the test with flying colors too. So definitely, I'm not gonna die on this hill or anything. But before this, been more than reasonable to make the argument that Makhachev could have fought some more people and this and that. He, and it would have given us a better idea, maybe, of his skill. So this was really good look from Makhachev, and we'll get to the O'Malley thoughts, your thoughts, and my thoughts. But this was a really good sample size, for the battle for sample size, right? Reasonable sample sizes. We got to see a lot, of stuff we haven't seen before. So that's great. Right or wrong, being on the wrong side of the bet as well. I'm still very happy for those things, folks. I'm going to keep that same energy, But yeah, it should have been Aldo though, man. And instead you get Merab, and then we get this, and then just so that we can wait and be on the shelf for this depressing thing that probably shouldn't have happened. And I get why TJ was going to do it. Again, these fighters won't protect themselves from themselves. You're gonna, tell them not to gamble on themselves, which they have, I know. But that's another thing. It's just these fighters are gambling on themselves, folks. And yeah, that's why I hate when a fighter does. And I know they're not allowed to anymore. But I hated so much all the people that were giving props to fighters for gambling on themselves. But then there's when they win, but then they shit on the Justin Janes of the world when they lose. It's whoa, keep that same energy. That is straight up hypocrisy bullshit right there. Keep the same energy either way how you feel. I'm not telling you how to feel about that, but make sure you keep that same energy and realize at the end of the day, all them fighters are gambling. Much more than we ever will, but also gambling in the same instance as many of us have to, especially those of us under the same form of capitalism these fighters are. Not trying to go there. I'm just saying it's the truth, folks. We not saying good or bad or this or that or making a comment or a left or a right jab. That has nothing to do with that. I'm just saying the reality of the world is we're fucking under many instances, right? From what they're going through to what we're going through and everything in between, we all gambling on it. We're all gambling. So let's be kind to each other. Let's be kind and keep the same energy. That's all I'm saying. That's not controversial. That's not political. Be kind and keep the same energy, right? Right? Yeah, let me see here. Jerry Harper, Aljo has grown on me quite a bit. Nice. Talk about camps and coaches being good. How good is Ray Longo and fighters he turns out? I really like Ray Longo, man. Old school guy. He almost sounds like Bruce Willis from Die Hard. I feel like you know how Kenny Florian did a Heat with Renato Larange. I want to see someone do that kind of production, but I just want to see Ray Longo as he is now put him in the wife beater. I know what I'm asking for here. And make him slick back his hair, like Bruce Willis, like a dirty wife beater. Strap on an MP5, get a radio, have him stand on top of a building, act like it's Nakatomi Plaza, and just have him repeat lines from Die Hard. That would be so amazing and fulfilling to me to hear that. All right, listen here, Hans. I figured you left the party light on. Hanging out with Carl, James, and Franco here. Figured I'd bring Aljo, and Merab. We'd see what happens. Sorry, that's really bad. Longo and otherwise there. But yeah, I got nothing but good things to say. Old school guy, the hill sprints, those things are brutal. Taking a break from those right now. unfortunately, but I've been knocking those out, man, twice a week, and when I can, when I'm not too freaking injured. But yeah, man, props to Ray Longo. Alvin Yakitori, all fighters bring their heart and soul to the cage to fight through adversity and produce, creating an amazing work of art called combat. That's right, sir. RJ Bertle, why are there so many unprofessional people that cover this sport? Just hot takes from people that have never been through a camp or trained. Yeah, I hate to do that because that feels like the lazy take, but you know what? I feel like I'm leaning more into it, not just because I'm in that environment, which I'm sure has something to do with it, but oh my goodness, there are just some just really bad. Again, back to what my guy Eric Beth Fight said, when he said be wary about as far as people being overly confident about picks. I feel like that's just a good example about life in general. But in the middle ground of those two things, bets to life in general, what RJ Bertle's talking about, how people can just be really just unprofessional, ignorant. Like, it's just, it is bad, man. It is bad, man. And, I'm not trying to throw shade or anything like that. I've taken my gripes to people in DMs, and I'm not afraid to talk to people to their face. Because again, I'm training with the actual fighters that these fucks are unfairly criticizing most of the time. But yeah, people don't. What I found, man, is that people don't like honesty, and people don't like confrontation. They don't respond well to it, and they don't know how to. When I try to be mano a mano and talk to people via DM privately, professionally, it doesn't go as well as you think. When I talk in meetings in quote unquote closed safe spaces where we're supposed to be honest, when I talk about our well-being as independent contractors in closed safe spaces, I get fucking crickets. Yet these same people will be out there tweeting about, oh, the UFC's so bad, and oh, fighters need a seat at the table, and oh, you fighters, if you guys didn't have your seat at the table, and off of their, whether they're genuinely doing it like from a heartfelt or good place, or they're doing it from a high horse place, listen to me, folks. In my experience, 99% of them ain't keeping that same energy. 99% of them. Not even when it comes to their own well-being. Or their friends, or their coworkers, or anything like that. Like, you'd be surprised how many people do not keep the same energy, whether they pretend to or not. So, and I'll tell you. Yeah, and again, not to use that reductive, because it's very reductive and unfair, but coincidence, most of these people have not competed, trained, or anything to the level that maybe one could actually argue that you maybe need to get some respect. But then again, there's so many good fans and listeners and people out there who interact with this show who maybe don't have that experience, and they seem to respect the fighters. Heck, and they even gamble on it, and they're degenerates like, the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even we can be respectful. But yeah, man, there's a reason why I make it a point to say that I'm not a journalist, because first of all, no one really is in this space. But even like careful about, because I'm not a team guy anyways. But being like, oh, media, I'm a team media, or all media the same. I know people treat it that way and criticize it that way. But no. Listen, I suck. I may not be likable. You don't have to agree with me. Fine, all good, all those things. But I do come from the same side of the fence that the fighters come from, and not the journalists and the media people who claim to be journalists. And I'm proud of that fact. All right. Wow, Dan. Really speaking from your heart today, aren't you? I also have respect for you, Dan, since you take the time to study film. I appreciate that. Respect amongst my peers, listeners, is honestly the most I could ask for. I don't ask for much, and but acknowledgement means more than most to me than most. So thank you. Herbilius Merciless Dean. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to. We got Herb Dean is the gold standard that comes in here, keeps me in line. So I want to keep the Herb slander at a minimum, and remind you that Herb seems like a very nice guy in person for whatever that's worth. I hate that because I feel like that's the excuse people make for really bad people. I don't want to be one of those people either. I'm just trying to be nice and fair. I don't know, folks. You are not Church of TJ, but you are Church of Magnum. That is true. Guilty as charged. But hey, man, there could be a matchup coming up, sometime where I do pick against her. I picked against her in the past. I picked Torres to beat her, I think, back in the day. Coming clean on that one. I know that was a wild pick even at the time. I knew it was wild, but, I got to come clean. Again, I'm not somebody who will just bring up stuff to make me look good. For better or worse, mainly worse. I'm honest with you guys. Jimmy Kudo, is it bad if a fighter constantly changes camps? It can be, we've seen it plenty of bad cases, but how about some of the fighters with like the most longevity and have won titles or fought for titles throughout their career in said longevity, like Vitor Belfort or Alistair Overeem, noted camp hoppers, right? So for every example, there's a counterexample. But good question. Yeah, interesting, right? Interesting. Food for thought. Feel free to chime in on the chat too, folks, if you guys think of an answer that I'm not, which is very easy to do because it's me and it's me multitasking. So a little double, triple handicap depending on how you're handicapping. Jerry Harper. TJ may be a terrible person, but that guy is tough as hell. However, some of the choices he has made may be catching up with him. Yes, that's true as far as his body. That is very true. Our health is all we have, right? As somebody tweeted, I think my guy John Yunko tweeted. Too tough for his own good. Yeah, absolutely. Someone was saying, like, if he dislocated it like 20 times in camp, he really did long-term damage. I mean, I have a brother-in-law now who was never like a crazy athlete. He's a big guy in good shape, rock climbing, bikes, and this and that. But his shoulder is just done. I mean, he's been in immense pain, and he's like healthy dude, not old. And he's been dealing with it. He might be in his 50s now, but he's been dealing with it throughout his entire 40s. I'm almost 40. Again, all the grappling, all the martial arts and stuff. Like, I know I suck or this or that, and you'll never be a pro. Not that I ever wanted to be in there or sought out to be or thought I could be, folks. Relax. But if you want to shit on me, you can say you've never won as an amateur yet, which is true yet. So go ahead, shit on me. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I've been doing some type of combat sport since 1992, since before some of you, maybe many of you, were born, having punches and kicks thrown at me, and I'm still in the room as of now as a 37-year-old with actual, not just amis, but pros and people that I'm probably going to be covering. Two of the guys who've been kicking my ass recently just won belts. So shout out to my guy Gio Salazar, my other guy Bryce Moak, and even in my last round, going against a good guy, I was when something popped. I was actually winning the round in a position very similar that you see Khabib and Islam always get to. It's just fucked up sometimes, man. So yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna push through as I answer some questions. One last one on TJ that I see here, then we'll get to O'Malley on because I'm interested to share what I think and hear what you guys think. Synchro Wing. I meant did it finish TJ earlier has made me racist. Oh, okay. Because someone told me that I didn't like having a black champ, even though I think he's a worthy. Racism stuff's no fun. You've been nothing but polite to multiple cultures in here in the small sample size alone, Synchro Wing. So I'm sure that's unfounded. And yeah, man, I think I think both Jamaica and just black African Americans, however you want to identify, it's a win for it's a win for multiple columns as far as that regard, to be honest. So I don't know, man. Everybody's winning, and it's all good thing. It's all good stuff. So yeah. We don't like racism and all that stuff. So that's no bueno. Sean O'Malley defeated Peter Yan via split decision. 29-28 with the two judges. It was round one that was in question, that was cited as close in the broadcast. I thought the broadcast was kind of crazy, and I was going to tweet something. I'm like, is it really that close? But I was like, Dan, you bet Jan. You're watching through, you see these glasses? These are Jan-colored glasses. You have your opinion, just like, it was kind of a moot point for the, when I do subject a scorecard, is worthless. I bet it, folks, okay? So I said I'm going to wait and watch it after the dust settles. The bet's already lost. The emotion is out of it, even though, I'm doing this right after the fight, so who says it's out of it? But, you folks, again, if I'm not perfect, I don't get everything right, I suck, you don't have to agree with me, all that, that's fine, but ain't nobody taking away from me that I'm honest and I'm one of the most best at stating my biases, which in this space, Again, another thing, a lot of people are bad about, whether it's media or people that come from the fighter side of the fence that are fighters that go to media. They're even worse at it, in fact. So I am proud of that fact or whatever. So that's why I didn't want to get too into it, right? And I saw different ways. Now, is it, Jan fans, bettors, / that whole kind of like fed up of the system thing where, like, especially if we've had some, like, I don't know if it happened this card, but like I remember that Mexico card where you had that kind of bad Grasso Esparza decision, and then so people are pissed, and then by the time the eye poke thing happens with Jeremy Stevens and Yair, everybody just loses it, right? There's kind of a collective thing that happens, like in general audience, not just live audience, like from us from Twitter at home, especially when it comes to things that have burned us justly, right? To where we've all been guilty. We've all been there where we overreact because, the refs always mess up, which isn't true. Even with the worst refs, they don't always mess up. But it's kind of how we can get into that thought. We get into that blanket statement thing that I try to avoid and try to call out, right? I do it too. We all do it, okay? So you had people kind of coming at it from those multiple facets. And you had other people where either in good faith trying to defend, they did believe it was close, or there was a bit of that contrarianness, which I get because, again, I'm not throwing shade here. I, too, commit this. I'm really bad at this, Mr. Contrarian here. But sometimes you want to be a contrarian and go, I didn't think it was that bad. And then I saw those two crowds just like, it was like the 5 points war, in Scorsese's Gangs of New York and shit, but it's just like the two sides, right? Everybody was like, okay, all right. Definitely staying out of it. My bias ass is definitely staying out of this, right? Till the dust settles. Feel free to throw your scores in the chat. Like if you haven't already. And subscribe, Daniel Tom MMA. 5-star ratings and reviews. Appreciate it. But, so I'm like, let me go back and watch with a sober mind because I felt like Jan's counters made round 3. Got him back within it a lot closer than maybe was given credit to. But I ultimately went with O'Malley, and I feel pretty confident in that. I feel like maybe we could split hairs on what's more egregious, giving that round to Jan or giving round 3 to Jan or giving round 1 O'Malley. We could be arguing even longer if we did that, so I'm not going to. It's really not that important, but it does prove the point that it's one of those close fights where it could be 29-28 O'Malley or 30-27 Jan. I get it sounds crazy to some people, but I get that. I don't know about it here, especially after rewatching and accepting that my money is gone, it's never coming back. And I did that before I rewatched, and I even rewound and rewatched like the first 2 minutes 2 or 3 times because I kept getting ADD distracted, if I'm being honest with myself, which again is a reminder, folks, on how hard it is, because if you're a judge, or if you're in these or these judges, I should say as well, if they have a little ADD lapse in mind, like you can't make up for that, like, and now that's on you if you missed something that was crucial, and you may not think you missed anything, you're hoping that you missed anything, but did you? You get a bunch of like back roar, and you're like, is this the normal back roar that people always give judges, or is this legitimate back roar because I actually missed something, right? To kind of prove how difficult the job is to defend the judges. And the two judges, one is Ben Cartilage, a judge I greatly respect, and I'm grateful that he gave me the time, but just because of that doesn't mean I'm going to, not give my opinion or like do that thing where, again, people in the media are really bad about if they've got good connections, whether it's a fighter, a judge, a promotional official. Whenever things within their neighborhood go bad, they're doing damage control. It's like, dude, no one's paying you to do damage control. You're media. You need to report on what's happening. It's not your job to do damage control. Like, no, you're worried about hurting their feelings, right? And I can say that as somebody who picks against people. I'm on the fucking same mats. We're sharing the same stopping ground, sharing the same coach, because we're fucking doing the fucking sport. And I'm honest. And I keep that same energy. Even when I'm wrong and accounting for it like I am now. So I kind of hate that. I get it. It's human nature, folks. I get it. It's just like, I get it. You're not going to make any friends doing what I do. You're not going to advance your career. Believe me. Look at me, right? I mean, shit. Fucking scraping for things over here quietly behind the scenes, stuff that you guys don't know, but it's just like I wish I could tell you, but I can't and I won't, so I'm just gonna stay professional. Obviously, it sucks. But yeah, man. Sorry, what the hell was I talking about? Don't get hit in the head, folks. The score is for Jan O'Malley. Yeah, I don't. I get it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm still not going to say it was like a robbery, but this was, and Grant, keep in mind, I'm the guy that never really uses the word robbery. But I will say this, it's pretty damn close, man. It's pretty damn close. And that's me saying it, okay? And I'm like, if you want to accuse me being overcorrecting and being too much on the fence, I'm worried about what I look like. I don't want to hurt anybody. You could definitely accuse that of me right now, by the way, for not saying that in general or for this. Because going back to watch it, there's really not much that's being done even in the first 2 minutes by O'Malley. To the point where commentary is doing that thing. And again, you got to be careful because, and I'm not, for all the criticisms, fair or not, with commentary, I'm trying not to do this where, sorry, I'll let my dog in here in a second, get up. We're basically, they feel like they have to compensate for another fighter if they're not doing well. And it's not that O'Malley was doing terrible because there really wasn't a lot of action, although Peter Yan was checking a majority of the leg kicks and landing the much cleaner ones, as well as landing cleaner to the body. It was mainly body and leg work. Surprise, surprise, guys. Wait. There's a controversial decision, and okay, we know you lost this decision because that's history, death, and taxes, Dan. But wait a minute. You're saying there was a controversial scoring of a round, and the fighter who landed more quality shots, both landed more quality harder shots, and the more of them, the more quality, the more shots, the more harder, the more quality, more of them even defended better, but they were in the realm of body and leg kicks? What? The more flashy, flamboyant headhunter got credit in the round everybody's screaming about? That never happens. I certainly don't call that out. For audio listeners, I'm just giving one of those stares to the camera right now. Just another begrudging I told you, motherfucker. And not I told you so, because again, I am right about this stuff. I am right about the poetic twists and the nice, and I'm wrong about bets and close decisions and this and that. That's how it goes, folks. Do you guys know anybody that could be so right when they're wrong? And I'm not saying that like to cushion my fall, because again, I'm not right in the ways that matter, and I'm the first to admit that. But I'm saying like in a poetic irony sort of a way, because this just keeps happening. But what do I know on scoring? This and that. What do I know? Now again. I'm also not going to go the opposite side and be like, the judges are twiddling their mustache and not grading body work and leg work. No, that's not true. I've said that many times in this podcast. They are obviously trained to grade the more impactful strikes. I think it's just like the same thing with why striking gets prioritized over grappling. It's not because it should, folks. There's a lot of people spreading misinformation out there, even on UFC broadcasts. It's effective striking and grappling. And what was more effective? What was more damaging? What was more immediate? Still count the accumulative, but what was more immediate? Still counting and acknowledging the accumulative, but it's both. It's effective striking and grappling, folks. And And yeah, there was no effective grappling. Like Sean O'Malley got a takedown, but it was at the end of the round, and so again, you have to be aware of the bias that we accuse the judges of all the time, right? Of, oh, they just remember what happened at the end. Well, we got that with the O'Malley takedown, and then you got the broadcast overselling it because they didn't expect him to be this good. They start off overselling him in the first 2 minutes, where they start overselling some strikes. I think even like, and it goes like, it was from southpaw, and he was trying to set up his left hand clearly. He's more of a power shot guy, a long power counter from whatever stance O'Malley's doing. And it was good because he needed more lead hand presence. He was lacking it, and it was almost like he remembered, and he did a parlay parry into a jab off the same side, which is great. It's something I've been actually working on myself, actually, as a southpaw too, especially. But it's not a powerful shot, and Anik was like, piston of a right hand. I'm not shitting on Anik or whatever, but it's just like, people hear that, and it goes in their mind, even if they know better, maybe they're not watching that clearly because the power of suggestion. Again, magicians are made a lot of money off the power of suggestion, folks. It works really well, even when you think you're looking at something and paying attention and something you think you know. When you go into a certain autopilot mode, back to that concentration and how difficult the judges' jobs are, you could be susceptible to these things. That's why I always say be careful just listening to a commentary, or that's why so many people listen on mute, because they really want to get that effect in there. And if you're looking at the body shots, like O'Malley catches one of Yang's body kicks a lot cleaner, but I give Yan way more credit for his body kicks because you can actually see, and there were some bad camera angles for both guys. And what I did when I was grading this, folks, was if there was an unsure shot for Yan, I didn't count it. And this is the one bias I did do going in. I actually counted the steering wheel the other way. I handicapped it for O'Malley going in, which was if there was a shot that I didn't see that O'Malley threw, I gave him credit for it. And it still wasn't close to me after I did that, folks. Again, I'm at peace with this. My money's gone. It ain't coming back. I can cry as much as I want. Nothing's going to change that. I know that. I would hope my body of work and the character that I've shown through the sample sizes as big and consistent that I've given can prove that. But it wasn't. I didn't see it as close. Whereas Yan didn't catch, but that's not exactly the whole thing. It's a pass through. It's a Muay Thai pass through for the body kick, and he was passing through. The way it may have made, he may have slapped with the foot to make a noise, but that's the dangerous thing about people who don't know striking and are leaning too hard on the criteria portion solely of making that mistake, which I've talked about with said Ben Cartilage, and he agrees with me on this, by the way, of discounting the cumulative in favor of what you deem as more impactful. Now, impactful obviously weighs more than cumulative by criteria dismission, but you don't by criteria how it's written, but that does not mean you dismiss cumulative, because again, if it's that carnival race where you're shooting the water gun into the hole to get your horsey across, right? Heavier impact should get you, 5 paces to the 1 pace for cumulative, but if there's a lot of cumulative and there's only one or a couple heavy impact, eventually the tortoise can beat the hare, folks. We know the story. It's an age-old story. This shouldn't be too hard of a concept to grasp in conjunction with written criteria, but even amongst the self-proclaimed top criteria people, it's still a trap that you can fall into. And I'm not saying that to throw shade. This is something that a trap that judges themselves can fall into, because I was affirmed, confirmed, and told that by a judge. But yeah, but yeah, I honestly scored it for, and I went into it very open to it for O'Malley, and I want to say this now to give in defense of, and again, not that I have to do damage control, because I disagree with Cartilage and Lethaby, who scored it for O'Malley, and they're very, good, long-standing judges who are very respected in the community. So you have that. They were in 2 of the 3 were in agreements of which rounds to. It wasn't, they were scattered on rounds, which I guess is good too, right? You got to give credit where it's due. And commentary again. I didn't agree with commentary either that it was a close round, live or upon rewatch, biasedly live or unbiasedly upon rewatch, unbiasedly as possible upon rewatch. But the common thread is that there was a majority of them, more than just my opinion or your opinion, and they were all cage side. Not that it's always the best view, by the way. It's not. You got to use your monitors. Those people will use their monitors for commentary or judges if they're afforded that. But they do have a cage side view, which is, even if you don't want to argue, or even if you want to argue what's a better view, it's a different view. And it's the view that matters because it's the people calling the action and adjudicating the action is what we're talking about, right? So their viewpoint, just like we should respect other people's viewpoints in the world, right? We should respect theirs. So, I respect theirs. For my own curiosity, it would be nice to hear, explanations as far as, for people on the accountability side or whatever. But at the same time, it's, there's a lot more to that conversation as well. But, I had it 29-28 Jan, giving him rounds 1 and 2 and giving O'Malley round 3. No problem giving O'Malley round 3. But yeah, I just felt like Jan's leg kicks were debasing. His body kicks were harder. And even though he wasn't hitting hard shots, he literally was doing everything from foot stomps, knees to the thighs, punches, and elbows and knees in the clinches and off the breaks. That's about 5 different strikes, five different strikes at multiple different phases, and he consistently did that in any grappling entanglements, whereas O'Malley didn't throw a strike or a submission attempt or have any control with that one takedown at the end, which was amid some landed Peter Yan strikes. O'Malley did land a couple good strikes in there, for sure, but just not enough for me. So I'm going to go through and see what you guys thought, see if I'm crazy. For that, Jimmy Kudo, I know Jack slacking yourself. Number one thing saying is you guys don't like to argue close fights. Is Jan versus O'Malley a close fight? It was an amazing fight. It was a competitive fight. It's hard. Close is just one of those words. I mean, even competitive, people get so mad about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, people get so picky about your choice of verbiage and descriptors. You know what? I thought it was a close fight off of initial instinct, and maybe that was just the high of it. Maybe we're all suffering from that, and I will acknowledge these things like I always tend to do. So yeah, initially I thought it was a close fight. I didn't think it was as close rewatching it, but I'm not going to condemn anybody for saying it was a close fight or using that verbiage. Jerry Harper, Jan and O'Malley was a close fight, no doubt. O'Malley dug deep and impressed, but man, it's hard to give him 2 rounds in that fight. But I'm biased. I bet heavily on Jan. Tough beat in my opinion. Yeah, I don't disagree there. And obviously, I'm in the same boat as you. It's hard to complain because I'm very biased. Obviously here. So factor that in. But again, I rewatched and I would be more than happy to rewatch with any pro or any of my colleagues or any of you guys right now on a live screen if that was possible, and audit it that way and would be just as confident in my score. And if I wasn't, well, that'd be a great learning experience, wouldn't it? Makato Kayagoku, controversial question here. Is there a correct way to enjoy your victories? Don't you think Adesanya throwing shade and saying, I thought you said I got no knockout power, is his way of, don't you think is his way? Yeah, it absolutely is. And I don't think that's like too controversial of a thing. I know I made a comment about it in the past, but it wasn't like mad at Izzy. It was more just like wishing he would upset, just enjoying his moment. Then, but that chip on the shoulder, man, it's real. I have a hard time separating my own chips on my shoulder. It's why a lot of us get in that cage. So far be it from me to throw that stone, but it was how I felt. Yeah. But no, I didn't mean it in a stone throwing fashion for what that's worth. My NXT MMA, great thoughts. Really respect your opinion on this. OG, thank you, sir. Mark Fellows, do you give Islam a realistic chance of being competitive against Volk? Absolutely be competitive against Volk. I won't give a prediction of that yet. Huge size difference there. Huge. And I'm definitely not going to be, disrespectful, which I get. Islam's got to, Ugh, that's the most upsetting, by the way. Beneil Dariush should be getting the next title shot here. I don't want this to happen. No, we need to stop talking about it. It was just gross. And then you got, again, DC on the broadcast helping promoting the bigger fight for his boy, of course. So it's just going to amplify that narrative and push out people like Beneil, who, again, you don't got to like the guy's personal politics message. You don't got to be all about the religious stuff. It's not what I'm all about, but so sue me that I'm sympathetic toward a meritocracy and somebody who works hard and earns something, Not to be bootstrappy, I'm just saying, like, someone who works hard and earns. I don't think that's controversial to say, right? So, power to Beneil, who we'll talk about here. And the rest of these won't be as long, folks. Jimmy Kudo, example of changing camps. Zhang Weili has been to fight ready. Bang Tao Syndicate a little bit extra past year. But original core coaches. Yeah, and there's a lot of contexts like that, too, as far as the camp change questions. There's examples either way, and then there's contexts of, like, okay, how much of it is it really a camp change to them just changing scenery a bit, right? Jerry Harper, you won't say it, but it was a potential robbery. DraftKings had Jan minus 800 at the end of the third, live betting. Wow, that's a big line. Arcade 99, the rounds were competitive, but I scored all of them for Jan, and I was confused by the commentary team a little bit too. Yeah, again, I don't want to get hung up on that argument, but I feel like scoring round 3, if you wanted my opinion on it, obviously I would probably say round 3 for Jan more forgivable than round 1 for O'Malley, but that's just one man's opinion, folks. And, again, I had bias on it, so make of that what you will. No offense, Dan, but discussing the scoring criteria and complaining about it is the least interesting thing to me. Like time people were trying to argue Rose beat Carlin rematch. Yeah, it would be boring, especially in that fight. But in my defense, at least I try to keep it relevant, apropos. And I'm just kind of pissed off at people not doing it right. Whether it's people on the broadcast, people in general, people in the comments, people that should know better, and get far more credit than I do about it, but I still hear certain things kind of misdone in my opinion, so I try to clarify that and keep it relevant. And more of the better coaches and stuff are talking about it. Was just recently, I was working with my coach Neil Melanson, and we were working, stuff for my fight and really technical stuff, like for a fight. And there was criteria talking, and not that we're talking about criteria or judging criteria, but we're just going over certain rides and stuff, and I love hearing good coaches should be doing it. Neil was like, oh, this is really good. This really shows the judges that you're being dominant from a grappling position. It really helps sell it to them, because you have to be aware of optics, especially things like we talk about on this podcast that don't get graded as well, like grappling or leg and body work, which I know you're a fan of, Ghost. So see how easily it ties right in and everything? So like it or not, buddy, it's here to stay. Arcade 99. I didn't rewatch it. Maybe I'd score the fight different on rewatch. Always good to rewatch, folks. That's why I do the tape. That's why I do the study. If you're like, oh, you study this fight? Like, yeah, no. I just remember that Islam Makhachev always shoots with his head to the right side, because I have nothing better to do, folks. Jesus Christ. Not you guys, by the way, but you'd be surprised how many people just don't realize how much goes into this shit. I appreciate Ghost Phantom's example here. Unless it's a complete blatant robbery like during Torres, where one fighter clearly robbed by hitting the crispier shots at the end of the round 3. Yeah. And even that one, I didn't even call that a robbery, but I do appreciate that example there. I don't disagree. The context is being used in, heavily context, it was a lot closer than most people think. That's probably is true. I feel like, I can still have my opinion and still agree with that, because, again, it felt like it was a camp of complete robbery or complete non-robbery. Y'all are crazy. Like, no. I, like always, am more toward the middle, but if anything, more toward the side of, closer to the robbery side of a tug or war game, even though that's not my case, and I'm not, one-sided person out here. Rain Lamina said, I thought it was 29-28. Jan, he had a good first round, which was out of character. Me too. I thought he was actually actively pushing too in that first round too, live and in rewatch. So that is kind of ironic that he loses a crucial first, and the one time he actually was like trying to win it. Hold on, I'm gonna let my dog in here, and then I'll burst through the rest of these. You guys doing good? You're not making a mess. Come talk to the people. Huh? All right, Stinkum. Speaking of the Wire, I call my dog Brownie Stinkum. That's how her name is eventually evolved into. All right, I'll continue on with those as they come through in the chat. Benil Dariush defeated Mateusz Gamrot. Happy to be wrong on this one. And I'm happy the judges got it right. Obviously, Dariush won. I had it 30-27, but it was at least 29-28. And again, going by criteria, if you look at who was doing the submission attempts, who was landing the damaging shots, that was Dariush. So I have no problem there. And round 3 was a great example. And again, I picked Gamrot even though I didn't bet it. And I was rooting for Dariush. So I don't know how heavily biased I was toward Gamrot with that being in mind. But I did pick Gamrot. And I'm sympathetic to you Gamrot bettors because speaking of, the thing that always bothers me where the cumulative outweighs it, and I've always got the technical fighter who's doing more work and more work, and then that one big shot changes it, whether it's legit or not, or if it is legit, maybe there's still an argument the other fighter won, and his cumulative is not given as much credit as it should be, regardless of the result or what I think of the result, and that annoys me as a pet peeve. Well, this wasn't one of those cases. It was like a perfect example to be. But no, I completely agree with it. That was easily the cleanest shot, not just the round of the fight. Not that, you got to be careful about that, by the way, because that's a dangerous thing where we can be like, oh, that sounded loud and slapped, because there was like some slapping shots of O'Malley's in round 1. But if you are really watching and you know striking and understand it, you know that those, if you had to gamble, are probably not going to be as hard as the thudding shots, or more meaningful. And if you're actually just watching the actions and reactions of it, right? You will see that. But no, this was like clear as day. Hit him, dropped him. And I know Gamrot's just came off of a fight where he got dropped and still won round 4, right, against Sarukian. But yeah, man, I pulled the trigger on the wrong dog here for sure. Not that it would have helped my night. I mean, geez, I think I lost like $1,000 tonight, which sucked because we had some good momentum recently, folks. And personally, I was right on the cusp of a withdrawal night, which means that these fight cards are always the most important. Plus, it was Du Bronx. Plus, it was an actual good card on paper leading in. Plus, I bet more than I ever usually bet. Not ever bet, actually, but more than I usually bet. That's for damn sure, right? And not just to be a payout night, but I really could have used that, not just with the bad work news and whatnot, but with the even though I've been planning and actually saving and buying things for this home gym since last year, it actually, a winning night tonight would have paid off my home gym, and not that I keep a lot of debt or a crazy balance, but it would have paid off my credit card balance as well, which would have been nice. Would have been nice. Because I, too, am gambling on myself, folks. I, too, am an independent contractor. I, too, am an entrepreneur trying to bust my ass and bootstrap myself into the world of capitalism. So, hey, man, you play, you pay. It's no sympathy I'm asking for, folks. I know what I'm getting into, but it does suck. It does suck. I ain't going to lie. And for better or worse, I'm going to be honest about it, could save face and just, again, be one of those people, just whether it's bets about life or whatever, they're on your Instagram feeds where it's like, does anything bad ever happen to this person? Not that I wish it, but, you're just like, it's always just like braggadocious shit. Like, it's like, nah, you getting whatever, you getting it raw here, folks. Raw dog. You getting it raw here, folks. Easy. Phrasing, Dan. You getting me. And I'm happy to be wrong on this one. Happy for Dariush. Although, it would have been nice to gotten one right. That's another crappy thing, about when, even though all the best fights were obviously on the main card, as they should be, it was a paid freaking portion of the card. We'll get into their selections next, leading in and starting it off. But as it should be, the best fight should be on there. But often in the fight nights, the best cards are in the prelims, the better picking fights. So my pick percentage on the prelims would be insane. I'd be like in the 80% right now, and I'd be like, look at me. But no, we keep getting all these freaking trash, heavyweights and random WMA fights, and just, I know this one has actually stakes in the division. I'm just in general, folks, and boy, is it also wreaking havoc on my pick percentage, because I need that too. Manon Fiorot defeated Caitlin Chookagian. I would consider this a close fight, I guess, but I'm not going to die on my hill about it because I don't want to say the right person won, because people I respect out there in the media who do the due diligence and the criteria, like my guy AB, Aaron Bronstedt, are there. Did have for Chookagian. I had it 29-28 Fiorot, and I bet Chookagian. I had her props round robin, and I just put a unit on her straight because I was like, in case it goes to decision, which it did. But of course, again, folks, this one I didn't expect to get. I shouldn't have got. The right person won, so I don't even want to mention it. But yeah, it was a close fight. So you knew me. I already knew where it was gonna go, anyways. Even if like my opinion was differing and everybody was like Chookagian, close fight, but Chookagian, that would give most people hope. If you guys have been following along at home, we know the trend here. We know the trend for close controversial fights. No matter their shapes and sizes, we know where we end up on that. So, but no controversy there, in my opinion. I scored it for Fiorot. Bad choice though to open a main card with. Like, what the heck are we doing here, right? And even the lead-in, another important fight, and I like both of these guys. So again, I feel bad complaining. I don't want to sound like an asshole here, but I mean. It was more exciting than it had any right to be. And again, props to Khabib as a coach, because Bilal actually got the finish, and he got the bonus like he deserves for getting that finish. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I like the pressure. You could tell by the end of the first round for me that I didn't hate the Brady score. I wasn't trying to score because I bet it, obviously. So scoring is not paramount for me, nor should it be. My scores be paramount for you. When I bet, especially, right? But yeah. But again, it was commentary. Commentary. Bilal kind of was getting cut a little bit, so he's showing it more. So that's what we're gonna go with. Brady swings harder. Bilal has volume, and so yeah, you're just gonna get that classic. Well, it sounded on local white kids was more impactful, so I'm gonna give it to him. But if you actually could see it, like, it was close, and I have no problem with it first going to Brady, but you could actually see where the fight was going. I like that Bilal was getting on the pressure, and DC was like, Bilal has never pressured. Like, Bilal's a multi-versated fighter, but he has enough of a sample size and has had enough pressuring performances from his debut against Joban to many more. But we know DC doesn't do much prep, and the hashtag Mark Diakese wrestling for the first time in his career, because he never did that in Bama or in the UFC, So yeah, but hey, I prep and I'm wrong, and he don't. He's there. he's the champ. He's the double champ. He's the man. So I'm not hating. I'm just saying, We had a Kyle Bohayo, but hey, we cashed a bet there, right? Let's sit on that for a second, and it's gone because I don't victory lap. Kyle Bohayo defeated Mahmoud, baby, Mahmoud. Yeah, Mahmoud. Sorry, easy, Dan. Why are you getting so excited for that? I wouldn't watch this fight too much, but it just looked kind of crazy. I didn't expect to see Mahmoud engaging on the top, albeit he was actually like doing well. So that just looked like a weird fight. So not much to say there. Nikita Krylov defeated Volkan Secret of the Ozdemir. That didn't surprise me too much. I know he doesn't go to decision very much, but this has been a trend. Wrestling, outworking down the stretch. And Uzdemir's never had the greatest gas tank. So Abubakar Nurmagomedov stayed away, but he ends up getting it done. Omar Gadzhiev, that was a really bad fight. And again, I had Gadzhiev on my potential fraudulent list. If I wasn't proven right on it last time, maybe this time. Armin Petrosian defeated AJ Dobson. Didn't watch too much of this one. This one didn't sound very great. I was listening to the commentary, though, and then just getting in my own head about the knee stuff because, it really does affect you. I've had... I already have a slight tears on ACLs, pretty much bad meniscus on one leg, and who knows what's going on with the other. And yeah, again, just hearing what these guys have to go through and how they're still going and fighting on this stuff and whatnot, and going on camps and what they could be potentially doing long term in their career. I mean, me, it's like, just like I'm sure a lot of you have families that you take care of, right? Whether you have kids out there, your listeners out there with kids, or you're like me, maybe you take care of older people in your family or your parents, right? And it's like, I'm sitting here worried because, like, I'm the person who has, it's like, dude, if I'm, chasing this dream and something happens, like, people are depending on me for driving to places, doctor's appointments, lifting heavy things. And people depend on me. And that's why I stress enough with this work stuff and money and employment, like we all do, right? Because we want to be there for who we take care of. So before we criticize these people, we also got to remember it's like they got to gamble on themselves. That's kind of the position they're in, whether we like them, whether we agree with it, like the TJ Dillashaws. And if we are going to, I'm not saying not to give crap to TJ Dillashaw, and I'm not saying to give crap to AJ Dobson, but these guys are in the same boat, man. It may be different contexts to varying degrees, sure, obviously. But these guys are all risking the same stuff. It's stupid, yes, but it's necessary. Not just chasing that glory that it's really powerful. And I the young man in me is definitely coming out recently, right? Again, I'm not getting paid for this shit, and I'm trying to do it. So it's like, of course these guys are going to go out there with, like, one legs and stuff. We never know. And that is the crazy part about betting on this stuff. And again, that's the crazy part about being so sure. That's why I hate people that are too confident. And I hate people that are like, easy money or no problem. And it's just like, oh yeah, were you in there? Was it easy money? Were you the one that won the bet for you? Or did you just have to sit on your ass and the other person had to go in the training camp? Yeah, that's what I thought, right? Just like the people I was talking earlier about, talking shit, like, and using other fighters' successes. Or, again, it's okay to be a Khabib fan and all these things, but that's the worst things about, like, front-running franchises, like, from teams to, like, undefeated fighters, is you got these people running in and using this number as a big shield in every argument. And it's just like, ugh. Anyways. But, yeah, AJ Dobson, hopefully... he learns from this, and hopefully both fighters can come back with a better performance, because it was a real slog. Even like one of the few finishes on the prelims, Makhachev, it came late. Inside the distance bettors were probably sweating. I'm happy for you. I'm happy you got that break. I would like one of those breaks. But yeah, it wasn't the greatest performance, and I haven't been super high or hyped or looking to play this kid for a reason. Just overpriced, and I think people are seeing that. He's got plenty of room to grow. I'm not condemning him, not shitting on him. He's good. Plenty of room to grow. But, again, every time you see these ridiculously odds, folks, in MMA, it's like, let's calm down, shall we? Carol Hossa defeated Lena Landsberg, and I didn't watch this one. She got a point deduction. It sounded like it was more of a sweat than it needed to be. So, again, even the big parlay pieces that did come through, it sounded like it was a bit of a sweat that they did. So, yeah, my faith in parlaying is not any higher. My faith in betting is not great right now after taking a big L like this. Probably just got to play out the rest of the year and see what I finish out at. But it's been not a terrible year, but definitely not a great year, not from my lack of trying. I don't know where I'm at in Tout Master. Last time I was checked, I was around the top 15 out of 80, and I think maybe like 2 or 3 times I've picked against my actual picks that I give out and post and stay with. So that number essentially more or less represents my actual picks that I'm making here, folks, and doing the work on. But yeah, it's bad. I'm 63 now. I'm probably down to easily 60% after an 0-5 night for main card picks. Despite going perfect in the prelims, it doesn't matter where it's currently being tracked, where my bets were, where it counts. That's where I get broken, not the breaks. But good for you if you guys were able to get out on top. I'm going to address some stuff in the chat, and we will get on out of here. Sorry for me mood. Hopefully the audio is okay. Let's go. Heavily Combat. I had Sugar Sean Decision plus 500 ticket and still don't think he won. Wow. Congrats on that ticket, and more importantly, thanks for the honesty. See, that's a good winner right there. He's not out here. See, he's not out here being like, it was easy money, which would have been obviously trolling, but you know what I mean. Like, you're a good winner there. Heavily context there. And congratulations on the ticket. Very happy for you. I'm not a hater, though I'm accused of it and can come off that way. I'm not. I'm happy for people, even though they're on the opposite side. James Kendrick, I thought Jan won the last round. You're not crazy. He did better than I think a lot of people give him credit for. Saying that as someone who scored the third for O'Malley. I didn't rewatch the third, by the way. I just jumped on with you guys, so reserved my right there. Jerry Harper. Oh yeah, I know a lot of guys who cashed an O'Malley decision ticket. Happy for them. See, it's all love here. They should take that all day. Absolutely, they should. I don't even think O'Malley thinks he won that fight. Wasn't that funny though? Like the most cocky guy who is like known for taking credit for fights that he hasn't won and ignoring results. Like could not even he couldn't hide it, folks. So even though I'm not the type who screams robbery, and I do feel like that's probably used too much. I'm not saying that it's not wrong here. I'm saying that it's probably used too much if you're asking me broadly. I will say to those people, go easy on those who yell or condemn the folks who do say robbery. Because again, even he didn't even think he won. I mean, come on now. That's always tough. That's always a tough argument right there, right? Hey, Kyle Mack. Love the content, Dan. I had it 29-28 Jan, but not seeing the horrific robbery round one was close. I respect Kyle Mack's opinion a lot. Great fight, whatever the result. It was, and that's the unfortunate part, is like it takes credit away from a great fight. So, and what O'Malley did do, right? So that's why I was tweeting, make sure we acknowledge O'Malley, and I tweeted that was a really good sample size from O'Malley that we got there. Especially guys like me and Kyle Mack who like actually like to examine these things and have things to examine. So much respect, much respect there. O'Malley exceeded my expectations, he adds. He exceeded mine too. I don't want that to get lost, and I definitely want to give credit where credit's due. Yeah, I definitely give O'Malley a lot of credit there. Absolutely, he deserves credit for that. Regardless of what you think of the decision. Repost, would O'Malley versus Sanhagen be a car crash due to all the stance switching and body work? I was thinking about that match actually, James Kendrick, as that fight ended and was going on, to be honest. So that would be an awesome. It would. That would be an excellent fight. I hope it. I only want it for 5 rounds though. You can't do that 3 rounds. If they do O'Malley Sanhagen, that has to be 5 rounds. Has to be. It's got to be. It's got to be. What's the name? Oh, God damn it. From Dust Till Dawn there. Jacob. It's got to be, Jacob. It's just got to be. There's a heaven, and there's got to be a hell. It's just got to be. All right. Jerry Harper. Oh, let's see. Hats off to Beneil. I bet Gamrot, but Beneil looked good, man. I thought the layoff would hurt him. I was wrong. Way, way wrong there. What Gamrot did against Sarukian messed me up. Yeah, man. Hats off to Beneil. Definitely, man. And you weren't the only one wrong. I was wrong on my pick and other things too, man. So happy to be wrong there, though. Kyle Mack. Benny is such a hard hitter for someone with hardly any knockouts. Absolutely. I always tell people that KO percentage is not always indicative of a fighter's power. Absolutely. Less of an argument for this and in a different way, but speaking of Takeya Mitsugaki earlier, he was a guy who I felt that way too, which is probably why he drew such intense fights out from his people he fought, from Miguel Torres. Shouts to my guy Kyle's Max episode and his Patreon, Combat Chronicle podcast. Go check that out. You can find it on Apple iTunes and support him on Patreon for that Miguel Torres special. But yeah, that is a fantastic note that not enough people talk about or give enough credence to. Fantastic. Rain Lamina, speaking of the one big shot thing for Gamrot versus Beneil, is that the same with Vera versus Font or Aldo versus Font? Absolutely. With a high those are perfect examples. Yes. And I picked that ahead of time to be those ones, so I really do like those examples. He says, where the high volume boxer loses due to getting cracked. Yeah, those are great examples of that. More clear, because for as much more volume as you get from a Rob Font fight, right? Or you had much more clear hurting moments too from Aldo and Vera both in those fights off memory. So great examples. Synchro Wing, wait, your coach is Neil Melanson? You ask him why his number one student, Michael Chandler, just like to sit in closed guard and why he doesn't use those cradles. Neil's always taught cradles, albeit he's focusing on it more since he split ways with Michael Chandler, right? Because they haven't worked together since Neil went to Florida, I believe, before Mike did. Or Mike did before Neil did from San Diego or something like that. Around that time. So they haven't been working together for a minute. And Michael Chandler should get to and sit in guard more because he actually has really good ground and pound because he does work with Neil Melanson, who is godfather of that ground and pound, like Mark Coleman, as far as like the coaching side of it goes, because he teaches, Godfather of Filth teaches the hand fighting there, which is the gateway to good ground and pound, just like is the good gateway to good clench striking hand fighting. See Alistair Overeem. Also see Alistair Overeem's ground and pound. The reason why Alistair Overeem's credited with such good ground and pound is because he had such good hand fighting that he could just transfer that into the clinch, which is why you see Muay Thai savvy strikers have uncharacteristically good ground and pound, even if they're not known for their ground game. See Darren Till versus Wendell Oliveira, right? Again, it goes on from notable, not as notable, all across the gamut examples there. So I actually like Chandler inside the guard because he knows what to do there. He just doesn't emphasize it enough. He's just a wild man. He's out there trying to knock people's heads off. Rio Sozin, let me try this again. Dan Tom is MMA Mania's number one pound for pound best analyst according to Tapology. That's hilarious. I gotta check that out if that's true. That makes much more sense now, the way you phrased it. Ghost Phantom, I don't know about you or anyone else, but I like to see the growth and improvement from fighters and could care less about undefeated records. Absolutely, but again, that's always going to be the talking points. It's just like it was a talking point for Khabib when he was fighting. It's going to be the talking point is his record and not the fact that he's actually giving technical analysis, because that would require nuance, digging into the weeds, and God forbid knowing what the fuck you're talking about. Michael Panza, what is your early lean for Izzy versus Pereira? Early lean's probably for Pereira, but I am keeping my mind open as I always do, folks. Even if it leads me wrong, where I came in leaning Aljo and ended up on Dillashaw. It didn't matter. Analysis didn't matter no matter what side you were on for that fight. Synchro Wing, lastly. Are you on the Manon Fiato hype train? Oh, yeah. My guy Ghost Phantom also asked me about that earlier. I must know your opinion so I can use it as my own. No. My opinion might not sound like I was using one of your guys' because I actually agree with you guys. I was not that impressed. She's too much one and done. There's not enough volume. She's got those Jackson Wing oblique kicks, which are a pain in the ass and actually do work on stifling a lot of fighters, but I hate. And even though they can be very damaging, right, if done right, I hate giving it credit because if it does damage, it's just the kind of unsportsmanlike damage. And I know rules are rules, and I'm not arguing with that, folks. But again, God forbid we have to be on one team or the other, right? Is it okay that I am all for the freedoms to use moves and violence, because I am, even if it's moves I don't like. But that doesn't mean I have to like everything, right? Again, people get really mad when not only do you not like what they like, but you have to be cupping the balls and sucking the shaft just as they're doing it. Otherwise, it doesn't count and you're wrong. Oh god. But yeah, I hate that fucking kick, and it doesn't take any skill, and there's not a lot of payoff, and there's not a ton of building to be off it. In fact, there's more building you can be done to counter off it. See Israel Adesanya, who does one of my favorite counters of that kick in the first Robert Whittaker fight, right? To give Izzy some love there. But yeah, Fiordo's got a decent check hook that seemed to be giving Caitlin problems, which makes sense because that is the number one safety thing for southpaws, that lead hand. It really messes people up, and it's a tool of hers, so that makes sense. Caitlin does not fight very many southpaws. Chukagian, Chuk train. So that seemed to give her trouble. And ironically enough, though, Caitlin, she needed to pressure Clint. Obviously, she needed to go for more takedowns more, and her corner said that was a part of the plan. Her corner was pushing for that, but again, fighters are going to do what they're going to do. But so even though it didn't go to fruition and makes it look like my analysis and bet completely stupid for playing her by submission, again, she worked a ton of wrestling in this camp. She just got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. This is one of the few fights where Manon Fiorot doesn't go for multiple takedowns by round 2. You think she waited till round 3? Probably because she was worried about conserving her gas tank, because I think that's something to watch out for, folks. Her in a 5-round fight, she cuts a lot of weight, and I think she's conservative for a reason, and even if it's not for a reason, it can still cost her anyways, even if she's not gassing. Like, there's just a ton of flags with her style. Like, betting her opponent by sub, whether I pick her in the future or not, is just going to be an auto bet, because she's going to go for takedowns to her own detriment. She'll probably go for a takedown on Valentina, and Valentina is one of the few fighters who can reverse and actually, has some decent defense, though. Santos was able to auto her a bit, granted. But she's not going to be able. Fiorot's not going to be able to do what Santos did. She doesn't build off of her grappling. She just does that point scoring, again, more outdated Jackson Wink point scoring era stuff that sorry to talk about criteria, Ghost Phantom, but it's relevant to the conversation. That's been attempted to be weeded out both by the writing and application of the criteria, by the way it's written and the way it's being applied by those who matter, right? So yeah. I'm not speaking over sour grapes or whatever here either. I know I bet Chuk, so it's going to look like that either way. But I like Fiorot better than I like Chuk as a fighter. Fiorot comes from the karate background, traditional martial arts. She's a southpaw. I'm all about that. I got some French tattooed on me. There's enough white people with Asian tattoos, so I'm like, let's Asians got to take it back. Let's get some white people language tattooed on us. It's not the reason why I got it tattooed, folks. Relax. But point it. Been to France. Not your typical American French hater here, folks. That's not where any of this is coming from. Believe me. I'm being objective and answering questions that's been pitched to me multiple times now. And yeah, after running her through the tape, which I didn't get a chance to finish, unfortunately, when I recorded this live, because I was so busy this week. But yeah, I was clearly not that high on her style, because I ended up picking Chookagian. And again, I would have bet in that something regardless. I ended up betting her to try to kick for coverage, and to her defense, it's probably one of the closer tickets to cash that didn't cash tonight. So, which is a Chookagian fight, man. Again, it's going to be a close, greasy fight. I took the plus money side. No regrets on that. And I still stand by my analysis. Mark my words. It may not happen tonight, and it didn't happen tonight. But Fiorot wanting to shoot takedowns more will burn her. Now, she didn't do it as much and as late, and it didn't cost her tonight. But what did she say in her post-fight? Her takeaway was, I didn't shoot enough takedowns. Like, yeah, that's what you didn't do enough. When it was Caitlin that did it, because Caitlin was actually kicking with her quite well, and I don't know if she realized that or realized it too late. But when she should have been kicking and going to clinch with her. But she was getting caught too much in boxing range, and it felt like I was watching Eddie Alvarez versus Conor McGregor for the first half of the fight, because she was doing the same thing. She was doing darting right hands and just hanging out there. She wasn't fully darting and getting out of dodge, or what she should have done, especially with seeing the head kick propensities of her getting almost knocked out by a head kick from Jennifer Maia, which, by the way, I said last fight, I don't know if I picked Maia or not, but all I did was bet Maia round 2 because Fiorot was going to shoot bad takedowns, and she almost got submitted and a head kick, leaving said submission attempts off the breaks in round 2. So again, I'm not going to get credit for it, because at the end of the day I was wrong, but my analysis ain't effing crazy, folks. Talking about details that no one else is, and they are coming true whether the results match or not. It's hard to control that part of it. So yeah, not impressed, and will be on the fade list for certainly. All right, I'm going to finish up questions and we'll get out of here, folks. James Cringe, can Charles fight Beneil? I hope not, because I like both guys, and Beneil deserves a title shot, and that is a really hard fight for Charles. And I've said that before, folks. Because again, not just being revisionist history and pulling from my Miles Jury's breakdown, or this breakdown this year, or thing I said in the last podcast, although if you really incorporate that just means I've been being fucking consistent about it. But even in previous podcasts before that, when Duke Bronx was on the throne, unofficially or not, getting that credit or not, shame on you motherfuckers who didn't, especially those in the media. But what was I saying? People were asking me bad matchups, and I said southpaws. That was the reason why Islam could be tricky, but also why I was giving love to people like Beneil and RDA before RDA got knocked off even. Again, my southpaw analysis to Du Bronx being bad. So just because I'm Du Bronx trained, or one of the few people where you can accuse me of being team somebody, I keep that same energy. I keep it as fair as possible, and I even bring up correct points that even people that are my detractors, who were technically correct by the results, fucking flew over their head. That's why you guys come here. So, yeah. All right. Ghost, in my opinion, Manon won't be able to do that against Valentina. I agree. Since both are southpaw and Manon likes to take advantage of that score from the open stance matchup. I agree. I think Valentina will be better from the southpaw versus southpaw matchup because she's had more of it because her main training partner, her lifelong one, Antonina, is a southpaw. So she gets that look regularly. So, yeah, I'd be willing to bet on it. Her reputation and hype aside, just through that factor alone. Lastly but not leastly, Ghost, why do you think people are jumping on the hype train when they watched what they watched for Manon? Because, again, just like how the commentary, and I'm not coming at the commentary, this is just human nature. It's a fact, folks. God forbid, I don't know why I'm one of the only people who are stating these things. But just like they can influence you on a score, they can influence what's next, knowingly or not. Which is why there are some things that sound like talking points and why they're accused by a lot of fans a lot of times on saying talking points for the promotion. And so sure enough, when you have, and again, just like I was saying with O'Malley, right, there's that natural, and it's not a bad thing. It's a well-meaning thing, and it's not wrong by definition, but it can be very dangerous and very misused more easily than it can be properly used, which is when someone is much lower on the totem pole, using their magic powers for the power of good, or so they mean, coming from a well-meaning place. They're like, let's even it out. Let's make it a little more fair. Let's make O'Malley sound like he's doing a little better than it is. And through the power of suggestion, right, it can be very powerful. Hence, affects scores, perceptions, narratives, so on and so forth. The same thing in a division that's very shallow, like 125, where what's the joke? It just takes a couple wins. And I'm not trying to take away from these ladies, but it is the truth. It just takes a couple wins, and you're all of a sudden deemed like the next contender, and this is going to happen, and they start talking you up. Like, we've seen it plenty of times before. That's what it is. It's not so much indicative of the skill. Again, it's not superfluous, because they're not superfluous things. I don't want to use that word. That would be incorrect. But it's like, and not arbitrary, because even that's a bit disrespectful, but yeah, more closer to using arbitrary, I guess. Using numbers, using arbitrary numbers to just prove your point on, this person's next, this person's this person's that. This person's got the longest win streak in the division. We see those stupid stats where they're just like, most in bantamweight history, and I'm like, this guy's from the Contender Series. How many fights has he even had in a division that's been around just in the UFC for over a decade? What are we doing here? Again, I know I talk about sample size, but that's the reason why I talk about sample size. All right, getting out of here and just going to give you guys some love. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Make sure you like and subscribe. Rio, Susan, if this is the end of the show, great stuff, Dan. Always objective and hardworking. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that recognition, even when I suck, and I'm not bringing home the bacon for myself and you guys, so which sucks, but I apologize, but I do appreciate that. Makoto, yeah, Dan, great show. Thank you very much. See you on Drake Riggs' show. I hope to do something with him soon once I get this stuff sorted for this camp and what's going on with me sorted. So hopefully soon. Drake's the man. Shouts to Drake. Jimmy Kudo, Dan the man. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Jimmy Kudo. Ghost, thank you for your participation as well. Thanks for speaking the facts, Dan. I feel like I'm getting gaslit by people. There's been a lot of gaslighting, and you know what? I'm fucking taking out the gas too. If I'm burning, I'm taking some motherfuckers with us, especially when we're on the side of not facts, bro, facts, but and not that there's right's very objective, but you know what I mean. We're right and we're spooting facts. It's like porn. You know it when we see it. We know our porn. No, just kidding. We know our martial arts, and we know what effective grappling is. So I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say these points, but it needs to be said because not enough people do. So thank you guys. We're about at the 2-hour mark, so that's it for me. There's another fight card I got to regroup for, as well as just regroup my freaking brain. Lot to digest. Hopefully you guys are doing good and have a good weekend. Don't let my BS and attitude, results, and outcomes affect you. Go out there, get what's yours, no matter what the people say. All right? You might lose the battle, but it doesn't mean you got to lose the war. War sucks. We want to fight war. You get what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be pro-war. I'm just saying pro-you and your goals. So thank you for the great show, Rain Lamina. You guys, again, cheers, Mark Fellows. The man, Mark Fellows here. My man, Mark Fellows. If I had one wish right now, if I could break diet right now, the only thing that would get me to break diet is if I had Mark Fellows here with some Korean barbecue and beer. In fact, mark that date. Let's do that someday, Mr. Fellows. On your side of the world or mine. The rest of you guys, no matter what side of the world you're on, have a good weekend, and always protect your neck.